Okay. No, it's not a big deal. So, yeah. Last night I was up super late, like doing the good old night laundry. You know, um, it's kind of my tradition. I don't know why, but I like to do my laundry super late at night. If I can just save it up and just do like 5 or 6 loads, like over the course of like a few hours, like and just watch movies and like drink beers and just have like drunken night laundry time. It's awesome. But yeah, like it's pretty much like one of my only times when I can like watch stuff on cable because I used to watch late night cable like a whole lot. And, that's. But now like I can do it. I can do it when night laundry is happening. But yeah, so I was up last night, just flipping through the channels, and fucking Pulse was on. You know, and I hadn't seen this movie in probably like 7 or 8 years. Like I saw it when it first came out and I liked it, and I just kind of forgot about it because it was kind of it was it's a remake of the Japanese movie, and like when you go back to like probably like 2002 or like even before that, like maybe like 1998 to like 2008, there was just like a glut of American remakes of like Japanese and sometimes Thai horror films. Just like there was just this crazy amount of like interest in that stuff. Like started with Ringu or whatever, The Ring. People just got like real excited about that. And there was like The Grudge and Ju-on, which is The Grudge. Forget The Eye, which is like that Thai movie where somebody gets an eye. Yeah, but like there was just like this crazy glut of these movies. Like there's a whole bunch of excitement about the whole like Japanese horror, mostly like the weird like ghost girls with the spooky hair and like the twitchy shit where people like walk around. It even like that whole aesthetic even transferred into American horror like a lot. Like every ghost movie, the ghost is all fucking twitchy and it would walk around all weird and there was like hair in front of the face, doing the whole, you know, Japanese thing. Yeah, like this movie came out like pretty much towards the end of the cycle of remakes. Not entirely, there were like a few that trickled out. I think The Eye was after that, but that's a Thai movie anyway. It starts out that way. But yeah, this is like actually a pretty good film. I've never actually seen the original Japanese one. So I might be giving this remake like a little bit more credit than I actually should. But as far as the like the cycle of remakes of like this Asian horror like phenomenon goes, like this one is fucking supreme. Like The Ring, I fucking hated it. Uh, The Grudge, I wasn't too big a fan of the remake. Like the originals are they're pretty good, but I think Dark Water. There's one called Dark Water or something like that, where they move into like an apartment and the water's evil or something. But like that's like a remake. But yeah, man, this movie's actually pretty fucking good. Nobody likes it either, and like it's kind of been forgotten, you know, along with like these just kind of like throwaway remakes of like foreign horror films from like the early 2000s. But this one actually has like a lot of it's got a lot behind it. It's really good. Like atmospherically, it's a really just like fucking like layered and like intense like kind of a just the way they build like the I guess the diegesis of the movie, because what it is it's there are like some people who go to a college or whatever and like they talk to each other on a computer and stuff, and they kind of know people who are like into it. They kind of know like hackers and shit like that, and like all this weird shit starts happening. One of their friends commits suicide, and like people start kind of like gradually disappearing a little bit, and like no everyone's trying to figure it out, and it's kind of connected to this like weird website that's kind of got like weird like suicide snuff movies on it. And it turns out it's like this fucking like these guys are working on a project in the basement for like just like a telecommunications thing where they're trying to they're trying to make like a better Wi-Fi signal almost, and they find like this band like within the electromagnetic spectrum that like lets these fucking weird ass like kind of ghost guys in from like a different dimension, I guess. I don't know. And it's kind of unclear if they're ghosts and they're like dead and coming back for revenge, or if they're just like the inhabitants of like a weird dimension. It's never really, stated that they're actually like the ghosts of dead people coming back, even though sometimes like when their friends die of this shit, because like a few people die in this movie. Like they'll see them like come back, or like they'll see like little glimpses of them, or they'll the lead character, she's played by Kristen Bell. It's like one of her first movies, I think. Like she'll have these dreams and like visions of like a weird fucking like dimension that's just like full of concrete and like smoke and shit like that, and there's like weird like ghosts walking around, and she sees dead people there. So it might be the afterlife, or it might just be like some other kind of like weird thing. But yeah, this movie's actually like visually it's really really good. It's like, and it's like one of the few movies where, or not really like one of the few movies where this happens, but it's definitely like the people who came up with the visual design for this. I think Wes Craven wrote some of the screenplay or adapted, the original source material into a screenplay. He didn't direct it though. He was going to, but he's kind of bailed on it. But yeah, like the whole visual design of this thing is like communicates, like I guess like the message of the film in like just like a visual and like atmospheric way that just like the acting and the dialogue and the plot like really don't, so like the whole thing about it is it's like they live somewhere in like apparently Ohio, I guess. Like it's supposed to be like Columbus, Ohio, I think. And just like everyone lives in like these crazy like brutalist architecture, like fucking like giant like apartment buildings, and everything's just like concrete and like blocks, and it's all weird, and like it's modernist, but it's like it's the brutalist like modern, so it's just it's like super like hard edged shit that it's like completely unadorned. It's like functional, like these buildings, and it's just kind of like the whole aesthetic of the movie kind of like communicates like a just kind of like this postmodern like hellscape, like kind of like just kind of mental despair and like kind of isolation from everyone else, and they do like a whole bunch of cool shit with color theory as well, because people start freaking out about these ghosts, right? And they'll lock themselves up in the room with like, and they'll just put like red tape like all over the fucking like room, like keep these guys out, keep the signal they like transfer over like out of their whole thing, and they have to get rid of all their anything that like generates a signal, like hooks them up to like the larger like just kind of like this new like kind of emerging like environment of like technological connectivity that we have with like like all our new like telecommunication shit, like the internet and like cell phones and stuff like that. This is a very like anti-technological movie. It's awesome. But like the red tape, and like I think the color red in this movie like represents like just kind of like the like a more authentic life that's kind of that's just kind of like separated from like just this like different like kind of like dreary like postmodern like thing. They're like trying to like bring that back into their existence with like just these bold like colors, because there's like very little color in the rest of this movie. Everything's like a grayscale, or like white. It's like clinically white, or like or that like nasty like kind of beige like 70s plastic, or like like reflective surfaces. Like nothing's there's no like reds, or there's not a lot of reds or greens or browns. There's no like none of those colors that kind of like represent like life and stuff like that. And they get like in the beginning there's a few of them, but then as the plot about these guys like coming into like our reality and fucking with people like goes forward, the kind of transition the entire look of the movie down into this grayscale. I'm not sure if they do it with filters or with like a post production color correction. It might be like a just like a scaled like color correction, but it doesn't really matter. It looks fucking cool and it makes sense because like a lot of horror movies from the the early 2000s particularly like are color corrected dark with like blues and like grays for no real reason, but this one like has a reason because like what it is, it's like it's kind of an indictment on like how depressing and shit like this like emerging technology is and like how it's like affecting like people's minds and shit like that. Like, it's kind of came out before social media was a thing, really. Right? Like there was MySpace and shit like that, and I think Twitter was like just coming out, and like Facebook was kind of at this point like eroding like the MySpace like market share and like the kind of like the a lot of people had blogs before, but it wasn't like a big deal, it wasn't like this kind of like weird obsession with other people's lives and other like and trying to make yourself look interesting on the internet, if that makes sense. And they kind of presage this kind of like shitty postmodernist like mental state that we've like all kind of fallen into, in this movie about like 7 years before it actually like really took hold. Like this kind of like nasty social media addiction really took hold in around like 2012. But this movie, it shows like shades of that because these guys come through on the Wi-Fi signal and they make contact with you like it's creepy as fuck too. They're like all just there's these ashen like weird kind of like human like figures that are kind of like devoid of any actual means of communication other than just like screaming at you. Right? And they spook around and like they kind of suck your soul out. And like people who come in contact with them just get this like weird fucking like gross shadowy crap on their face, and they'll either commit suicide because they just like kind of lose the will to live, right? Or they'll a little shadow thing will eat them and they'll just fucking like explode into dust, right? And that's kind of like that almost kind of feels like when you're when you go on like social media stuff too much and you see like how much cooler everyone is than or you get like real mad about shit, you kind of go, because I do this, I kind of go on like these little like weird marathons where I'll go on like I'll wake up and I'll like look at something on Facebook and I'll get mad or whatever, because there'll be some like ridiculous fucking like political post and the guy who posted it obviously doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, or like I'll go on like Tumblr and it'll be like, like, oh, I'm men are animals and I'm terrified and like you're absolutely horrible because you're white or whatever, and I'll get like super depressed, what I mean, and I'll look at like people's like Instagram feeds and like I'll get like they'll be like super sexy and interesting and have like really good lives compared to me. Or like at least I think they do, they probably don't actually, because you only show the cool parts of yourself, or like the fucking super you act super depressed on the internet like all the time and like try to bum people out with your shit and get sympathy. Either way, it's a depressing fucking like vibe that just like comes out of all these things. And yeah, it just kind of like saps like your fucking it's emotionally sapping like the ghosts from this movie that come in. But like they made this and kind of like predicted that this like just nasty fucking like psychic like mess that we kind of made ourselves with new media is like what it is like now, and they like predicted it with this movie. It's pretty fucking awesome the way they did it. But yeah, back to the like film itself and not so much like the sociological implications of the film. Yeah, they communicate everything really well through just like through the general atmosphere of what's going on. And computers always wanted me to update to Windows 10, and I just totally don't want to do it. The only problem I have with it, and like, is the ending, because like the whole movie is like real confusing, like all the way well, it's not confusing, you know what's going on. There's ghosts and they're fucking with people, but like the way it's presented originally, it's presented like just like a ghost movie. It's like some weird shit happened, like they start getting messages from like their friend's computer even though they know he's dead and shit like that, and people are like seeing ghosts and shit everywhere, and like Kristen Bell, what's her character's name's Maddie. She's going to like a psychiatrist and shit because she's freaking out because her, like, I think it's her boyfriend, like died, and so like it feels just kind of like your standard, like your bog standard fucking like ghost movie with like just kind of spooky mysteries and shit like that. But as the movie like progresses, it like kind of turns into a disaster film almost, which is awesome. Like people, just like the population of this town just kind of starts like going away. Nobody really knows why. For a while, nobody really like connects it to the ghosts. So it's just like people like, hardly anybody was in class. What the fuck? And like the streets will be empty, and like people will like be putting up signs about like, tape off your fucking apartment. Like just the population of the city just kind of gradually like decreases over time. Almost like nobody's leaving their house because they're all on the fucking because they're all on Twitter complaining about social issues, or bragging about like the fucking like amazing steak they ate, or like on Instagram, or like whatever, like taking bubble baths and taking pictures of their leg tattoos like in the bath. Nobody's actually out like in real life anymore at this point, or in the movie they've been killed by ghosts. But it's not clear that they've been killed by ghosts. It's almost like the movie starts getting depopulated. It's only like around like the midpoint that it becomes clear that like this is actually like a disaster that's happening, and it's like affecting the whole city. And they're like running into people who are trying to escape this shit, and like it's getting real weird. My only problem with it is it's a short movie to begin with, right? It's like maybe like it's 90 minutes. It's 80 or 90. I'll look it up right now because I got the like a tool. I've got the IMDb for it open. So many bad reviews about this. I've fucking no idea why. I think people just go on the site and complain about every movie, just to be assholes about stuff. Because, for one thing, these people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Never never read IMDb reviews like they're a real thing. But, listen to me instead. I'm good. I know what I'm talking about. Tell your friends. Subscribe to my channel. Like this video. Like and comment. Anyway, so this says it's an hour and 30. But it feels like it moves like way faster than that. But like some of this hour and 30, that might be the uncut version. Because some of this movie can just be cut out. Like there's a big part of the like ending that just makes it kind of lose impact. Like they go like the full disaster movie route. Like after what should have been like the climax of the movie. Like there's no reason for like maybe like the last 10 minutes of this film, because like they go in, figure out that like maybe they can shut the system down with like a virus or whatever, and they're running through and there's ghosts and shit like that, and they turn the computer off and it doesn't work. Spoilers. Sorry guys. It is like I think we're beyond the statute of limitations for spoilers though. This did come out like 8-9 years ago. Let's see, 2006, so 10 years ago it came out. But yeah, then like the rest of this movie just kind of turns into something else, for the last 10 minutes. It feels tacked on, like maybe people didn't think that the audience was going to be satisfied by like a shorter movie or whatever, so they just tacked on kind of like 10 minutes of crap at the end with like a voiceover. We'd never heard a voiceover throughout this entire movie. But like people are just talking about shit. There's helicopters flying around and like smoke, and it's just kind of, it's not very good. The cool thing about it is, though, I will say, the last 10 minutes of this movie is that visually, like, all the cities look like the cities from the main girl's like visions and shit like that. So it's almost like the signal just kind of like took over everything, and they're just kind of in that dimension now. You know, they just kind of transferred. Maybe, I don't know. You know, that's just kind of my take on it. But yeah, this movie's actually pretty good. It's spooky as fuck. It's like, it's not gory. It's, oh fuck, I'm knocking bottles down over here. It's like a PG-13. So if you're not a big fan of like super brutal violence, even though the uncut version has some like pretty gnarly suicides in it, you know, even it's still fairly tame though compared to like other, you know, horror films that are just like splashing fucking blood all over the place. You know, this one's like, you know, it's mostly just like the aesthetic of it, like the way the creatures like move around. There's this one part where like the guy goes to his dead friend's apartment because they're getting like instant messages from like his computer when they shouldn't, you know. So he goes down there and like he encounters one of these ghosts, and it's some fucking lady, and she just like comes out of this wall of just like black, like weird shit, and she just starts like walking towards like the fucking dude, and it's real bad, and he like hides under the bed, and she's all spooking around and shit like that. It's actually fairly frightening. Yeah, and then later when that guy's like affected by this shit, like he melds out of this like weird black stuff like through this guy's wall, and like his face is just like kind of obliterated with like this like depressing black like goo, you know. But it's good times. It's cool because it just kind of like it keeps you off balance with, you know, what it's supposed to be. Like the plot is like kind of, well, not the plot, but like just the presentation's kind of like schizophrenic almost. So it's hard to put your finger on what's going on at any given time, which is cool because the characters in the movie are having the same problem. Like nobody knows what the fuck is up, you know, until like the very end. You know, but like when they go to kick ass, it's just like, you know, watching the movie feels like, you know, like you're trying to survive a ghost apocalypse, you know, like people are running around, they don't know what the fuck is going on, like everything's like defying science and shit, computers are not working the way they should, everything's spooky, you know, and except for the last 10 minutes of the movie, which are fucking ridiculous. They kind of almost put a happy ending in on it, which doesn't really make any sense. I guess there are 2 sequels, never heard of that before, but yeah, I totally recommend this if you want a good spooky film. Pulse. I'm totally gonna watch the original Japanese one, and I'll probably compare the two. You know, I'm sure the original's better, but this one's actually pretty good. Don't listen to the bad reviews. Love this movie. I'm done talking. Wow, 23 minutes.